Order the City Council regular meeting for the City of Wyoming, Minnesota, August 15th, 2023, 7 p.m. Let the record reflect, we do have a quorum. Member Yeager, Member Schilling, Member Onstad, Member Luker, Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, open forum. Did you want to speak at open forum tonight? Nope, so we have nobody here to speak at open forum. We're going to get right to number 1 on the agenda. Consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for August 2nd, 2023. If there are no comments or questions, do we have a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Member Luker. Do we have a second? Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. We'll move on to number 2 to consider ordinance 2304, an interim ordinance authorizing a study and imposing a moratorium on the operations of cannabis business within the City of Wyoming. Mr. Linwood, Mr. Lunan.
I can start, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, tonight we are presenting you with a public hearing and ordinance regarding the legalization of cannabis and the moratorium in the City of Wyoming. We've continued to work with our City Council, Tom Lunan, reviewing this issue and this new law as it's been presented. The adult cannabis was passed on August 1, as you're aware, as a recreation and legal by adults. Also, the sale of cannabis products, and lower potency hemp edibles is not legal until the Office of Cannabis Management begins issuing cannabis businesses, hemp business licenses. That date is not identified yet, but we are in process just to give you a brief history, at that July 18th meeting, the City Council did adopt 2 ordinances. The first being no person being able to smoke cannabis flower products in a public place. That was 2023-02, and then 2023-03, an ordinance prohibiting the establishment of new uses related to operation of cannabis business and hemp business for 1 year under Minnesota State Statute 462.355. Tonight, we will ask the council, as we have noticed appropriately for a public hearing tonight, to review the adoption of the interim ordinance as adopted under Minnesota State Statute 342.13. We'll need to conduct a public hearing tonight if the council is inclined to adopt that ordinance. This is an interim ordinance prohibiting operation of cannabis and hemp businesses through January 1, 2025. The interim moratorium ordinance would be enacted as authorized by the cannabis legislation. To the extent that the cannabis legislation permits the moratorium to extend to hemp, this moratorium would apply to all hemp as well. The interim moratorium ordinance would give the city time to adopt or amend official controls for cannabis businesses and hemp businesses prior to the Office of Cannabis Management approving licenses in the city. The moratorium would start once the ordinance was adopted and then published in the city's official legal newspaper. So with that, if the council would like, we can move forward and have open the public hearing and see if there's any comment, and then staff is happy to stand for any questions the council may have after.
Okay, we need a motion to go to a public hearing.
So moved.
By Member Schilling. We have a second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. We are now in a public hearing. Would anybody like to come up and, Janine?
Older than most of you guys. There's times I'm so glad.
And this is for the cannabis.
I'm Janine Sachs. I grew up in Swift County, Minnesota, farmer's daughter. And since I was one of the younger ones, me and my younger brother and sister had to go to the back 40 to bring the milk cows home at night. And our one rule from my dad, do not let the cows stop by the crazy weed. We had marijuana on our fence. I'd never known what it was, but we learned in a hurry. You do not let the cows near the crazy weeds. And now we're bringing them into our county? Not in my life. My 2 boys that live in Tennessee and Pennsylvania, they're not coming back to Minnesota. I said, don't. I wouldn't stay here either if I hadn't grown up here. But my husband's buried here and so are my family. But we don't need that any more than we need a hole in the head. Come on, get over it.
Yeah, all right.
We still have crazy weed out there. I don't know what's growing, but it's there.
Thank you, Janine.
That's very funny.
Do we have anybody else?
Well,
Come on up, state your name.
Gloria Norton. Well, I guess I'm just curious as to what, as I'm listening to this moratorium and what we are trying to do as a city to maybe stay it a little bit, what options are there? I mean, are we actually able to say, no, we don't want it? Is that even an option since it's coming down from the state?
Yep, I was gonna say.
Well, do you want to?
Sure. No, we don't have the ability to say no. We're essentially right now enacting moratoriums that we can establish local ordinances within the guidelines that the state statute has allowed, and that's looking at things on different potential zoning areas that we would allow for if there was a sale or things like that. But we do, based on the state statute, it would be allowable in the city. We're just working on a study to kind of see where those areas will be, and we'll continue to work with, staff will work with the council to identify some of those things. Mr. Lunan, I don't know if anything else.
Yeah, this was a hot debate when the law was being passed through the legislature, amongst cities pushing for more local controls and the state pulling back on that. And ultimately, the state won. There's not a lot of local control that we have. The authority that we do have is exactly as Administrator Linwood said. We have zoning authority, so we can restrict where these businesses may be located. We also do have the authority, if council chooses, to limit the amount of these businesses in our city. We have to permit at least one, but I think it's one per every 12,500. So there is an ability for that as well. Ultimately, this is sort of what most cities are doing. The statute allows us to do this moratorium. It's in effect until the end. It would be in effect if passed by the council until the end of next year. During that time, we anticipate two things. One, the Office of Cannabis Management, which is the state regulatory agency for cannabis, will be established and will have hopefully promulgated some rules and certainly set up a licensing scheme for these businesses to come and operate. That's the requirement, is the licensing, and then to put forward some rules. And then additionally, there's a likelihood that this law will be revisited come next session by the legislature. I don't know that they'll add additional local controls, but they'll probably provide some clarity on issues where there's been confusion and questions. So in that time, while this moratorium is in effect, none of these businesses can come into the city of Wyoming, and so those restrictions are in place. But ultimately, with regards to what ability do we have to stop these businesses entirely, we don't. We can't. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm definitely opposed.
Yes. The moratorium, though, is good.
Yes.
I mean, overall, we have a year moratorium, so that part is good for now. So,
Never know, change
yes,
can happen.
that's right. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? I don't see anybody else, so we need a motion to go out of public hearing. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Schilling. We are back into regular session. So I'll call on each one of you in terms of if you have any other questions regarding this ordinance. Member Yeager,
No, I think it's a good idea.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
Member Onstad,
No questions.
Member Luker,
No questions.
and I have none either. So we need a motion to approve ordinance 2023-04, an interim ordinance authorizing a study imposing a moratorium on the operations of cannabis businesses within the city of Wyoming. Do we have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Motion to approve by Member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Consent agenda, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'll pull 5 and 6. Does anybody else wish to pull an item? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve 3, 4, 7, and 8?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second? Second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Number 5, it's accepting a donation to the city of Wyoming from Holiday Station on Kettle River. I just wanted to say thank you for them and that $400 donation for the Night to Unite. And then number 5, number 6, I want to bring out also a thank you to Forest Lake Cub Foods for $50 also for helping us out. That was a fun night. The ponies were great.
I agree.
Yeah,
Thought
that
it
was
was
a
a
lot of
great
fun.
event.
Yep.
The weather
So-
held out and afterwards, and it was good.
Yeah, it was good. And then I'll have some more thank yous in my report. So with that, I'll move to approve number 5 and number 6 on the consent agenda. Do we have a second? Second by member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Moving on to acknowledgement receipts of reports of officer boards, commissions, and department heads. Number 9, 10, 11, and 12. Does anybody wish to pull an item from the reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications. Number 13, Minnesota Management and Budget Project Tour, Wyoming Public Safety Building. Mr. Linwood?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is just a communication. I'm happy to share with you that as part of our continued efforts for our funding for our public safety building, staff did submit a capital budget request to Minnesota Management and Budget earlier in '23. The Capital Investment Committee for both the House and Senate reviews those different requests and determines if those requests will be part of both of those tours in the fall of 2023. Our lobbyist and I have been in communication with our local senator and representative, along with attending events where representatives from the Capital Investment Committees are present to discuss the need for our project. Once again, I am excited to share that the Senate tour, we will be on the Senate tour. Our current buildings will be visited by the committee as part of the Northeast tour from September 5th to the 7th. We do not have the definitive time and dates as of yet, but we will receive those hopefully within the next few weeks. So, and we will share those with the City Council once we do. So. But we also sharing that we have not got absolute confirmation from the House for their tour, but we have received some initial feedback that looks like a positive chance on that as well.
Perfect. It'll be exciting to have them in Wyoming. We'll give them a great tour, I'm sure. So, all right, questions from council. Member Luker?
No questions.
Member Onstad?
No questions.
Member Schilling?
Just more of a comment. So they're really gonna show up and look at our facilities?
Mhm.
I think that strongly helps our case because frankly, our facilities are kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it's a good
So this is
perspective.
good news to me.
Mhm.
All right, that was all I had. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And
Wow.
Member Yeager?
No questions.
All right, I personally am very excited about this,
Mhm.
and I think it is, I'm not getting my hopes up, but I kind of am. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Linwood. Moving on to new business, number 14, we're moving right along. To consider Resolution 230879, a resolution approving the purchase of the Axon Fleet 3 in-car system for 7 police vehicles for a 60-month contract in the amount of $86,121. And Chief Bauer, are you gonna speak on that?
That would be me.
Are we gonna put pictures up there? They were
No.
great pictures.
Oh, good.
So I was hoping.
Yeah, Mayor Everson and members of council, my colleague, Mr. Keating, said I talk too much during meetings, so I will keep it brief, and I've already addressed a lot of this
Is
during.
he here tonight?
No, he bailed. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so you can talk as long as you want. You're all good.
And we've covered a lot of this already in work session, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to give you kind of an update. But so the city decided to purchase body-worn cameras in 2020, which was important. It was an important thing to do. At that time, the Axon body-worn camera system was selected, and it's also the system that we use to store all of our digital evidence. So videos, photos, any scanned documents, everything gets stored in Axon. And it has worked very well for us. It's really an excellent technology. Kind of a partner technology to this would be in-car cameras, and those have been around for 30-plus years. And that also would help provide evidence for criminal trials. In general, it really helps us reduce complaints as the body-worn cameras have. And in general, it really does, both these systems really reduce liability for the city. When the decision was made to purchase body-worn cameras at that time, understandably that was took precedence just because of it provides that first-hand view of what the officer's seeing at that time. However, you can see on the photo that was provided, essentially when you're driving to a scene, it looks at the steering wheel. It doesn't provide any peripheral perspective. It doesn't really give any other information on what's happening outside of the vehicle. So vehicle pursuits, when those do happen, we don't have any video. DWIs when the officer observes the driving conduct or isn't able to capture the driving conduct showing that someone's impaired. And like I said, this is, the body-worn camera is a great technology, but this would be that next step for us to just provide that additional evidence and perspective. The Fleet 3 system is an Axon product that would work basically seamlessly with our current body-worn camera system. They're merged into one incident and they're stored in the same system. I did explore some other vendors just to see what other possibilities there are. And essentially these all become kind of proprietary where we have all of our digital evidence stored on one system. In order for us to switch to a different one, we would have to either maintain that and still pay for that system or pay a programmer to move everything over. And the vendor that I did talk to, GTAC, said you basically can't afford it. It would be too cost prohibitive to do that. So we would be looking at purchasing the same, the Fleet 3 system. Essentially, it all is on one platform. When we share this information with the county attorney's office or other, it gets sent to them in one package. All the digital evidence is all together. As you can see in the photos that were provided, it is a panoramic 170-degree-ish view of what's in front of the car. There's a more narrow scoped video that would be more focused on like a vehicle or a traffic stop or license plate. There's a backseat camera that is also connected, and then the body-worn camera view as well. Has night vision in it as well. Just anecdotally, when this helps, we have people always, or frequently they'll say, I swallowed some kind of drug in order to try and prevent getting transported to jail. If that does come up, or this does give us video to see did they actually consume something when they're in the backseat of the squad, or if they do hide something, we have video of that. So right now we don't have that capability. If we do interviews in squads right now, they basically take their body-worn camera and try and prop it up there. That's not that's not the answer. So this is really just the next step for our technology to provide these things. Axon provided an estimate for this contract. It's 5 years for a total of $86,121. They will structure it in whatever way you'd like, but considering we have the state aid funding that's paid out fourth quarter of this year, we would be looking at doing an all upfront payment, and then we wouldn't have any payment for the next 5 years. 5 years from now, we would have to readdress, and not sure what the contract price would be at that point. We could structure over a 5-year payment plan at that point, so it wouldn't have to be an upfront payment. So we would know 5 years from now we would have an additional cost, but we could spread that over 5 years like we do with our body-worn cameras as well. You can upload it or front load it. You can do whatever you want as long as you buy their stuff. So we're recommending that we purchase the camera systems that would outfit 7 police vehicles for the 60 months. There's a 10-month delay. They wouldn't invoice us or actually send us anything until delivery. A question came up about whether we needed to adjust policy. We have an old policy that just never had any teeth to it. It was just a policy that existed. I would update that prior to the implementation of this program. It does not have the same requirements that you need to do public hearings, public input like the body-worn cameras do. This technology is old, essentially, and it's been around for so long that that's not a concern anymore.
All right.
Any questions?
Yeah, Chief Bauer,
Sure.
we had asked, I think we brought this up, work session maybe, and asked about Hubbard Foundation. Were you able to reach out to them? Were they able to say?
City Administrator Rob Lindman and I have been looking at a variety of different options. We haven't heard back one way or the other, but that's still, there's possibilities for some of this funding to come from somewhere else. We don't want to wait.
Yeah.
It's a 10-month delay already. The longer we wait,
Yeah.
we want to get it ordered.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Questions from council, we'll start with member Schilling.
So you said the first initial cost is the $86,121. That's a full upfront.
Yep.
And then after that 60 months, so estimating like $18,000 per year for all the vehicles.
Correct.
Okay. And then we can budget it that way.
Yes,
accordingly from the future after that first contract initial.
Correct.
I think they're a great idea. Thank you, Chief. I think they're a great idea. I'm actually all for this, depending on where the money comes from, but I think you had said state aid funding will be paid out of that.
Right.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Perfect. All right, member Yeager.
You said this is old technology. At the end of 5 years, are you going to still be keeping these cameras?
That's part of your contract, is they will then refresh every 5 years. Similar as our body worn cameras, we have every 2.5 years, we get new ones sent to us, they trade them in. The technology, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The technology is the most current version they have. It's contemporary technology. The concept of in-car cameras has been around for 30 to 40 years.
So you said we'll just get better cameras at the end of 5 years?
Yes, exactly. Even after this 2.5 years with their body worn camera, the new ones we're getting right now are the newest technology.
I don't have a problem if it's coming from state money.
Okay, all right, Member Luker?
I have no questions. I was in favor of this when it was presented at the work session. I still am.
Thank you.
All right, and Member Onstead?
One of the things I know about these cameras is that they're able to tie in each camera from each officer is time-stamped, and you can look at a different event, the same event, from different angles, whatever the officer sees.
Correct.
The camera that's in the car ties into that. I didn't realize or think about how the camera's so low that you don't see the things that are happening. Even though we have another camera in the car, it doesn't tie in. Is that correct?
They will sync together.
The new ones will.
Yes, these
But the
will
old
sync.
ones don't.
Our current body cameras will sync. They sync to, will sync with this system. Yes.
Right, but the old cameras that we're replacing, I'm assuming we're replacing old cameras.
We don't have
We
any.
don't have any.
We don't have,
No.
wow, we really need this.
Yep.
Okay. We have no
Sorry, I missed that
video.
part of the memo. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, then I think it becomes very evident
Yeah.
that this is something that we need in our vehicles because
Correct.
it's part of the story that we're telling every time we do an arrest.
Correct.
And I think it's good to have what's happening beforehand, not just how the steering wheel is turning.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, we need a motion to approve resolution 230879.
I'll make that motion.
We have a first by Member Onstead. Do we have a second? Second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 15, to consider approving the creation of the Reserve Cadet Officer, RCO, for the Wyoming Public Safety Department. Chief Bauer, you're on again?
Yes. Mr. Luden, are you recording my times? How long I'm taking? Yeah.
I'm gonna say this, you know what, Mr. Keating wasn't here with the previous chief, so he just maybe needs to listen to that a little bit, and he'll be fine, so,
Homework.
right.
I'll
All right,
refrain
sorry.
from comment on that. So as you are aware, we talked about this in work sessions in multiple different locations, but we've been struggling to find applicants for our police officer positions. We've had one posted since December of '22, and we have an additional vacancy over the summer. And we've had really low applicant numbers just in general. This is a statewide issue. It's not just Wyoming. I've been very involved with the police association or the police chief association, and also hearing from the colleges and universities. They're just, the numbers are really low, and we're just not in a unique situation. But either way, we still have positions that we're looking to fill. Essentially what we're finding is people that are in school essentially have that last year that they're in school, most of them have job offers already on the table with the department. And that happens by programs such as community service officers, reserve programs like this that I'm proposing, or some other way that it's a pathway for people to enter into these departments while they're in school or prior to them getting in school. Essentially, we've determined that over the last 8 months, the traditional recruiting just has not been effective. And we need to get more creative and be on par with departments that are much larger than us on what they're offering in order to be competitive. So one of the strategies that we talked about in the last work session was this reserve cadet officer position. It's a relatively low-cost position, but because it is different than anything we have here, we would like to present it and have it approved by council. Essentially, they would be hired, the posting would go out, they would be hired as a reserve cadet officer, which is an unpaid volunteer position. They have to be enrolled in a 2 or 4 year law enforcement degree program. While they are in that role, they would do non-sworn duties, so animal control, parking complaints, reserve, nuisance ordinance, community events, for a minimum of 12 hours per month. Which is, you know, you think of people that are working whether full-time or part-time, going to school, full-time, part-time, 12 hours a month is a big ask, I think, but it is reasonable for us to get some value out of it. The position duration would be set at 2 years. We would be able to extend it if we choose to allow them to participate in a police officer hiring process, but we would not extend it for any more long than 4 years is the idea. The incentive of why someone would do this or why this would bring people into our department is we would provide tuition reimbursement for up to 2 years, the amount of $4,000 twice a year. So $8,000 a year, a maximum of $16,000. Upon graduation and once they're eligible to be licensed, they would participate in the hiring process. They would be required to work for the city for up to 3 years. If they leave by choice or as a result of disciplinary process, they would be responsible for reimbursing the city for the amount of tuition reimbursement that's been reimbursed, or a prorated amount. We want to take this first step that once it's approved by council, we'd work with our city attorney to outline an agreement that would clarify the parameters of the position, just so we have those things squared away prior to hiring someone. Tuition reimbursement would be made available as of the end of this year, and this would be funded by the state aid funding that was provided, that would be provided at the end of this year. We think this is one effective strategy. We're hoping that we'll create pathways for a new officer to get Wyoming as on their list and be invested and see Wyoming as a desirable employer. Essentially, we have to be doing these things differently. And this is a relatively unique program that doesn't have a lot of expense for us. We can always use more reserve officers in general, and this allows us to really lock in 1, 2 into that program.
All right, questions from council. We'll start with Member Yeager.
Okay, for the tuition reimbursement, what's the GPA requirement to get reimbursement?
Those are some of those details. There's some consistent across the board.
What's the usual GPA requirement? Usually at least a C.
Do you have a suggestion that you'd like to see?
Well, yeah, probably at least a B.
Okay,
I
we
don't
can
want
consider
somebody
that.
from
We
the
want to be on
bottom.
par with what the other departments are offering. Tuition reimbursement is not a new concept. We can look at what other departments have and what we can
Well,
be
how
in
about
line with
this?
that.
In our usual personnel policy, we do offer tuition reimbursement to our employees. Do we have a GPA requirement for that reimbursement?
I don't think we do we?
I don't think so.
Completion is the way I understood it.
Give me 1 second, I can check.
Not that I don't disagree with you. Yeah, ours is, you just have to finish it and pass.
While Administrator Linwood is looking for that, there's a lot of different ways that we can structure this type of agreement. And certainly completion is obviously a prerequisite requirement. But then the standards as to what is considered satisfactory performance in the coursework can be defined by the city, certainly with the input from our chief in looking at it. So I think it makes sense certainly to see if there's currently policies that we have in place to have consistency there, but we can structure the agreement in many different ways as to what requirements we want to place on this money being used for reimbursement for these potential employees.
Okay. And that would be something that would come later, correct? I mean, once we approve this, you're gonna need to come to us in terms of a description or something, right? Like the details worked out from them, I'm assuming? Or did you want to get going with this right away?
I would like to get working with city attorney to get this posted
For a
as soon as
proposal right
possible.
away? Okay.
Yeah.
In our personnel policy, it is a C or better.
So
Okay, so
2.0.
2.0. Okay. I didn't want somebody washing out or, graduating with a 1.5.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Understand.
do we want the 1 point, the candidate,
Sure.
I'd like a candidate that does better. All right, so what happens if the reserve cadet officer is not hired as a police officer? Whether there was another candidate that was preferred to them or that there were no positions available, do they then keep the tuition reimbursement?
That would be the structure of it, is that if that's our decision as a city that we wouldn't be moving them forward into a police officer position, then that's on us. That is, a risk is attached to us that we would want to hire the right person on the front end. We would do a full psychological that would be done in the police officer position, do a full background, all the same things, physical, all the same things that we do for a police officer during this process to ensure that we don't have anything come up. And that would be essentially on us then at that point. If we choose not to move them forward as a result of,
We eat it.
we do, right?
Okay, cool. Will this position and the tuition reimbursement be discontinued after your current hiring problems have abated?
I
You're
don't
gonna
know
make
that I
this
can say
permanent?
that. I don't know that I can say that. It would, I don't know that I don't have everything we're hearing and seeing is this is not a 5-year problem. It's not a 2-year problem. It will be longer than that. We don't have a windfall of people coming into this profession that are expressing interest in as a high school student. So I would anticipate that we would be looking, but ultimately, as we discussed in the work session, that would be a council decision at that point.
So then what happens if nobody wants to be a police officer anymore?
I don't know that that's a question I can answer right now. I don't know that that's the scope of this.
Okay. And then it's my understanding that the tuition reimbursement will continue after the state funding runs out. So where will the continuing funding come from?
At that point, that would be a council decision as well, whether it becomes a budget item or if we have other funding sources at that point.
Okay, I mean, I really don't have a problem with this as a temporary solution. I do have a problem if this is a permanent solution, given the unknown answers here, and my concerns with having a whole slew of inexperienced officers, as our police, and then project constraints.
We're not going to get 20-year cops to be hired here.
Yeah,
That's not a reality. We're not going, with the lateral movement, that is not. We are going to get first-year applicants that are gonna start here. That's the nature of this size of department, our geographic location. We're not gonna get 20-year laterals with salaries and everything else. That would be amazing, but that's just not a reality.
I think we talked a little bit about that work session too, that you're seeing some of those lateral movements right now are driven too by not only just overall pay of those cities, but also significant signing bonuses, which I think this program probably has a better option than just putting up $10,000 to $15,000 signing bonuses like some cities are doing right now for those lateral transitions. But this, I think to Chief Bauer, this is a problem that isn't going away. As of today, there's 202 openings on the state board for police officer positions. So this isn't going away, I don't think, anytime soon. I hope that we're both wrong, certainly, that also that there will be an influx of police officers in school, and this will hopefully not be a continued issue. But I think right now, to make sure that we're able to staff appropriately for our department, we have to look at other things like this to ensure that we can maintain that staffing level and try to have people in the pipeline that can be contributing to the Wyoming Police Department. I don't think there isn't a silver bullet for this problem, as we are one of many, many municipalities that are dealing with this in the state of Minnesota right now, and somewhat across the country.
Well, I said, I have no problem as a temporary solution. So,
I just don't think we can answer that right now. I don't think there's any way to say one way or another, if there's a crystal ball, that all of a sudden there'll be an influx or what will change. We don't know. I wish we did know.
All right, let's go to Member Luker.
I have no questions. I thought this was presented really thoroughly and really well at the work session, and I'm absolutely in favor of it.
And Member Onstad?
I was not at the work session. I'm just one question about the amount of time required or minimum time. They can work more than 12 hours.
Sure, yes.
Okay. Why 12 hours versus 16 versus 24?
Yeah, it's just when you start adding up their availability of time, like we have one reserve right now that works a full-time job, is in school, full-time at Rasmussen, and volunteers still. So you start adding up all those hours that are required just to sleep, at 12 hours seems like a reasonable middle ground there to say that this is something they can probably still accomplish. But it is a big ask. I also recognize that, and it just isn't reasonable to say 24 a month was,
So they're able to come in and work a 4-hour shift?
sure.
Okay, because
Yes.
in my mind, I'm thinking 8-hour shifts.
No, they could
get
do
that.
2 hours every night, and that would be fine too.
Okay.
We would be very flexible with their hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Member Schilling?
I was not at the work session, but I did read through this. I think it's a great idea for us. And it is, at this point, it is temporary, but, I see this in my meetings at my office as well, but, these other larger cities are offering these bonuses. Let me ask a question, and I guess if it's point of order, that's fine, but how long have we had an opening at the PD currently?
December of 22,
So 8 months?
correct.
Okay, and that was budgeted for, correct, if we would've had somebody?
Right.
Okay, we have plenty of money out there to offer bonuses, I know that's another meeting, but I mean, that's my idea. I mean,
It can
if
be
we have an
evaluated,
opening,
yeah.
we're not paying somebody for 8 months, that money is not being used, it was budgeted for. I think we should definitely talk about that, as an enticement for new applicants, but this could not be the place for it, so.
And what do you think about this?
This I love, absolutely, let's move forward with this,
We'll
so.
bring you back.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted it out there publicly, so whenever the proper time to talk about it, I'd like to talk about that, honestly.
All right, thank you. Just one question. The money that we're using this time around, that's grant money?
State aid,
State aid.
Yes,
So we get to try it
yes,
basically for free,
correct.
right? We get to try it for free. So we're not eating anything this time around.
No, and there's no time limit on when we need to, if this is successful and we want to continue and there's money left,
Yeah,
we could continue to use that as well. And it's always an annual decision of council to whether we consider to continue these programs.
Yeah.
If it's become part of the budget, it may not be next year, so that's always part of the discussion.
well, and there's, I think I've said this before, I struggle with having to do different things to entice police. I've struggled with that. I kind of tried to really figure out what can we do. Nothing is apparent. Everybody's trying something different. There's a lot of things in the news. So I'm gonna support this because I'm gonna support you and your recommendation, knowing that you really believe that this is gonna happen, and I trust your judgment and your recommendation on it. So I'm in favor for it as well. We'll see what happens,
Right.
and if we have to go back to the drawing board, then we find something else. But we can't. Our residents deserve having a full police force. And we know we're the training ground. I mean, that's, we have become that training ground for a lot of things. So this could be a very great program, and we get to try it out without putting any money into it, and we'll see what happens.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
so with that, I will move the approval of the creation of the RCO for the Wyoming Public Safety Department. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Member Lugar.
Yes. She was before me, I heard her.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so approved. We do have to go into closed door session, but before we do that, we are gonna do council reports. We'll start with Member Yeager.
No report. Thank you for coming, and thank you all for watching.
Member Schilling?
I attended the EDA meeting last night where we had our downtown, why did I just go blank? Anyway, our
Downtown
You
downtown
had your
study.
downtown plan.
Thank you very much. And those of you that came in and spoke, and those that are watching, have a great night, thank you.
All right, Member Onstad.
I attend the Park Advisory Commission almost 2 weeks ago. Or no, it was a week and a day ago, sorry.
Last week.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and Member Lugar?
I have no report. Thank you for coming and for watching.
All right, I did also attend the EDA meeting. I'm very excited about the downtown study or plan that we're working on. So hopefully at Stagecoach Days, everybody's gonna come and take a look at it and see all the hard work that we've been working on. So I would also like to, there's a list of businesses I would like to say thank you to for the Night to Unite participation. The following is Pine Haven Farms, Wyoming Lions Club, Friends of the Giese Memorial Library, Hallberg Center for the Arts, Chisago County Public Health, Chisago Age Well Coalition, Forest Lake Sportsman Club, Lifelink Medical Flight, Carly Nelson, Keller Williams, M Health Ambulance, Mix It Up Sewing, Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Polaris, Lent Pumpkin Patch, Rosenbauer, Sunrise River Farm, Chisago County Sheriff's Office, K-9 and SWAT, Rise, and I believe Big Apple Bagel? Were they part, they were there?
That was Rise.
Oh, that was Rise. Oh, okay, fabulous. So thank you to everybody that helped support it and were there. It was just a fabulous night. So, and thanks everybody for coming and as always watching. Just don't forget we have a Stomp Out Suicide coming up this Saturday at Goodview Park. After Thursday, you can register. You can walk up and register, and then Stagecoach Days is coming up in about a month. September 16th. It's a busy time in Wyoming. So, all right, we are gonna take just a brief 5-minute break before we go into closed door session.